Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tag Podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. As always, we're going to be talking about how to enhance your net worth and your self worth and why financial independence is so important for women today. And I have a very special guest for you guys. This is Nancy with me. Nancy, please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. It will be my pleasure. Women Worth and Wellness, I started in 1992 when I was a wealth advisor. And when you become a wealth advisor, after you get all your licenses and everything, then you start off with a firm that gives you all sorts of training, but they say you've got to go find your own clients. And that's a good thing because whoever you work with is very, very, very personal. And you really need to be able to add unique value to their life as a result of them spending time with you. So I decided I would focus on women, not exclusively, but in the 90s, that was when women were really starting to earn more money and were starting to pay more attention to putting together their whole wealth plan. So away we go. I start to meet with different women, and of course, you start to hear their stories and their situations. Then what came very much front and center was that women, it's like every household has a nurse practitioner, and that's mom. Well, how much training has mom had in terms of all the different aspects of being healthy, but they're expected to know? So that's when I started to partner with not-for-profit health-related organizations that were focusing on women. For example, heart disease is the leading cause of death for women, not cancer. And the symptoms of heart disease for women are quite different than they are for men, because in the past, as we know, a lot of the research that was done on men, and women were considered to be little men. So it opened up a whole new world. And when I would host these events with Heart and Stroke Foundation, for example, I would charge a nominal amount. So I started to introduce the whole concept of charitable giving because that gift would be a deduction from your tax return. So women would start to see how their net worth can be enhanced by giving back. And fast forward 31 years later, now women are earning that much more, but they're also starting to inherit. So that small little charitable gift has now turned into philanthropy and legacy planning. And the power that women now have with their wealth to do all sorts of things that in the past they didn't have. And as we know, if you're in a position to give or share, that enhances your own self-worth. So it all became very, very positive in so many different ways, not least of which was these women connecting with these not-for-profit health-related organizations. So now they've basically got new friends. They've got new contacts that they can reach out to if something came up. And you, having been from Toronto,
Mhm,
may remember Women's College Hospital
of
right
course.
in the center of the city. So I partnered with them right off the bat so that again, women had go-to resources as it pertained to their health and well-being.
Very interesting, amazing story, Nancy. What made you decide to focus more on women?
Well, my first career was at Procter and Gamble in
Mhm.
Toronto. And I was one of the first female managers with Procter and Gamble. Hard to believe. Seems like it was, 14 centuries ago, but that was the reality. So all the way along, you're kind of at the head of the curve pertaining to women in leadership positions. I ended up leaving because the glass ceiling was starting to put too many cracks in my head.
Yeah.
And I ran politically, got involved with the community leadership, and that in itself was a really, really positive experience. But through that process, I met this woman who had been given a bagload of money, had been outplaced from a big, huge firm, went to a wealth advisor who just she felt did not meet her needs at all. And that's when she decided that she wanted to be a wealth advisor. And
Mm.
she's the person who recruited me. Now, once I got there, I was sorry I hadn't been there 20 years earlier because it is an absolutely perfect role for women. You have to be smart. You've got to get all those licenses and all those credentials in place. But the next most important step is you've got to listen to your client and you've got to care about that client and you've got to find a way to add your own unique value to their well-being. And so one of the things that I emphasize is that every woman needs to have a trusted advisor,
Mhm.
especially when it pertains to their wealth. Somebody who has all the credentials and the experience, but someone who has their back, literally, somebody who cares about them so that they're looking after their whole wealth scenario to enhance their life.
Do you think that women get taken advantage of when they're looking for someone, a financial advisor? Do you think we're still often overlooked and not taken
Sometimes
seriously?
sometimes it just depends on who, depends on, where that woman is coming from, and it depends on what dialogue she has with that person. But I have found that women often shy away from asking a lot of questions because
Hmm.
they don't want to be seen to be unknowledgeable and they don't want to be seen to be vulnerable. And so they just kind of set it aside, like I'll deal with that another day. But the
Hmm.
most important thing is to lean into the whole situation, ask whatever questions you don't have answers to, and expect that person to answer you in such a way that you now understand. And if you're working with someone currently and you're feeling that you're just not getting the best value from that person, then start shopping around because your life is too important not to be getting the best advice possible.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's really funny because I've been married for 30 years, and still to this day, with my husband, when we go to a bank and we're sitting down for a serious conversation or a lawyer or anything, any
Right.
official capacity, they turn around and they only speak to my husband. They completely disregard me. And this happens every single time. Meanwhile, I'm the one that's taking care of all the financial issues in the family. I pay all the bills, I manage everything, and they completely overlook me and only speak to my husband. So I don't know what the situation would be like if I showed up on my own, if I would be taken more seriously. But I find that part still super frustrating that in 2025, people turn away from the woman and talk to the man as if I had nothing to do with our financial situation.
No, it's crazy. And that's why the statistics are such that when a partner passes away, i.e., the male, more
Hmm.
often than not, the female changes advisors
Hmm.
because they're not prepared to keep on working with that person who has discounted them all the way along.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Why do you think
Mhm.
financial independence is so important for women, especially when it comes to our self-worth?
Well, if you're not driving your own bus into your own future with a good understanding of where you're going and why you're going in that direction, then that's a big, huge missed opportunity. It's just, you're just not being your best, and you're not bringing your best forward so that you can be your best. And when I was working with all of my clients, I made sure that when they walked away from that meeting, they had a good understanding of what they had and why they had it, so that there was everything in place if anything happened. And the other part of a really, really good wealth plan is that you've anticipated health challenges. And often that isn't something that a wealth advisor will do. They'll treat that as an afterthought or something separate or not at all. But you have to anticipate a critical illness, a premature death, a disability, all those things. So health is the cornerstone leading into your wealth scenario, and then
And
circling back to make sure that everything is in good order.
how would you prepare for like a health event as far as
Well,
financial situation goes?
well, we know that as you get older, to get insurance will become more expensive.
Mm.
So the sooner you start working with a wealth advisor who's paying attention to your health as well and getting those insurances in place, the better, the better. Because nobody gets out of here alive, and anybody who thinks that they will is missing the boat. They're really missing the boat.
But Canada, we have the best health insurance in the world.
Well, yes, yes and no, yes and
No,
no.
no, definitely not anymore. I know.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and nobody knows when they're going to get a critical illness.
yeah,
And the time to apply for insurance is not when you're on the doorstep of a health challenge.
yeah.
It's anticipating. That doesn't mean that you're going to put all your eggs in one basket and go overboard. Not by any means. And some of the conversations that I've had is if people are working with a corporation and then they decide they want to be an entrepreneur, often 20 years after that corporate experience, getting those health benefits in place is going to become that much more expensive.
Mhm.
So really pay attention to your benefits coverage at that corporation and how many of those benefits can you turn into personal benefits. And if you can't, then you may want to minimize your corporate coverage and put personal coverage in place
Mhm.
because life goes on, and you want to make sure that you've anticipated all of those various scenarios and that you're protected.
In general, would you recommend that people have private health insurance? I know in Canada we have the social health insurance, and in many other countries, like I'm in Europe here as well. But in America, of course, it's a different situation. But in general, would you recommend for people to have private insurance on top of the
I
national
would
health
def I
insurance?
would definitely encourage them to investigate.
Hmm.
Investigate. Don't think just because you're with a corporation that has great benefits that you're covered.
Yeah,
Because one day you may not be working at that company anymore. Either you choose to leave or they outplace you.
yeah,
And so shop around to see what personal benefits would cost and then make a decision.
makes sense. What are some other ways that you can invest your money in a smart way? Other
Ah,
than in your health. Of course, your health is very important.
that's a very, very good question. Well, definitely consider a legacy plan.
Hmm.
Again, we have no idea when we're going to die. And so putting a legacy plan in place sooner rather than later, at least get started with one. So that all comes down to making sure that you've got wills and powers of attorney in place. But think beyond that. Imagine it's the day after you've died. What does your world look like? What sort of things have you put in place that will have people remembering who you are? But also that legacy plan has some real net worth and self-worth components to it. The bottom line is if you've given a huge, for example, go back to my insurance example. If you've bought insurance when you're 20s and fast forward, it gets to the point where you don't need replacement income with that insurance, but you're still holding it. Think of that as being your philanthropic statement.
Hmm.
And if you die and that insurance pays out, it's obviously tax free. And if you have paid out an insurance coverage that is more than the taxes that you have paid that year, it goes back to the year prior. Those are all questions that you need to ask a wealth advisor.
Hmm.
Like, take me through this, and then you decide. You decide. It's really interesting because often when you start out with a new client, they really just expect you to come up with a magic portion that's going to be the best investment ever. So that
Hmm.
you invest 100,000 and now it's 300,000. It's like they expect you to perform that magic. And I said the most important thing with that relationship and to keep that advisor on side in the industry, you start with know your client. And
Hmm.
if that advisor has not dug deep enough to truly understand who that client is so that they can offer their services in a wealth plan, they have really missed a huge opportunity. And they may even be at risk for their licensing. It's
Hmm.
the same thing with a doctor. When you go to a new doctor, the first order of business is they will order blood work
Hmm.
because the blood work gives them a baseline as to who you are from a scientific standpoint along with the conversation that you will have with that medical person. So, knowing your client, having that conversation with whoever's giving that advice is really, 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 and keep challenging them. Keep
Hmm.
challenging. Well, same way you're asking me, should I be thinking about this? If I should, to what extent would you recommend? And then you decide whether that makes sense, if it's affordable, if that's the best way to spend some of your money, but have that confidential dialogue back and forth so that you've really shopped exceptionally well. Women are extremely discerning and make sure that you're discerning when it comes to that health and wealth plan.
And how do you go about finding the right financial advisor for you?
Well, normally you will have friends or family.
Mhm.
If you ask them, who are you working with in terms of how is this person serving you well? Are you satisfied that that person is doing the very, very, very best for you? And if so, then that's a person that you would go to get a second opinion. I'll share an example with you, which is a perfect one. I had a good friend staying with me, and she spends most of her time in the DR, Dominican Republic.
Mhm.
Comes and goes, spends time with her family in Canada, but then she's back there and, back and forth. And of course, when you are away on your holidays or you have retired away, you don't want to be spending all your time paying attention to the markets as they go up and down and all over the place. You're there to have some peace of mind. And so she was staying with me and she said, Nancy, okay, I've got this Zoom call booked with my advisor. I know her well. I know her advisor well. She said, I would like you to listen in. Okay, no problem. So this is what I did. The advisor did not know that I was listening in,
Mhm.
but back and forth went the dialogue. So the one thing that the advisor said to her is, at any given moment in time, she's taking her monthly income from her portfolio. At any given point in time, I have set aside 3 years worth of monthly amounts for you. And every year I make sure it's a rolling monthly. So you can always know that you've got 3 years worth of monthly set aside to cover your monthly expenses. Also, there's still money there if you want to take out a lump sum for a separate purchase or whatever. And then he said, I want to make some changes to your portfolio because some of these investments that we've made have exceeded our goal. So I want to take some profits, and these are the places where I'd like to invest some of those dollars. So the conversation goes on in terms of where he's taking the profits and what he plans to invest in a very detailed way so that she understands what she owns and what he's doing and why he's doing it. Then she did want a lump sum. Can I take out, I forget what the amount was, but it was a large amount. He said, fine, I anticipate that you will want these lump sums from time to time. And from a taxation standpoint, he's taking it. We have a tax-free savings fund now in Canada, which is great. I think that's where he suggested it be taken from. Anyway, at the end of all of this, any more questions? Nope. She understood. She was happy. She was delighted. And then she said, oh, by the way, Nancy's been listening in. And so I simply said to him, that was just the best interaction. That's exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because he gave her a whole level of confidence that she can sleep at night, like I'm looking after you. This is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. She had a chance to ask her questions. I think the whole interaction took no more than a half an hour,
Mhm.
and it was spot on. It was spot on. He was doing his job exceptionally well,
Mhm.
and she was understanding exactly what he was doing. But equally important, or probably more importantly, she has that whole level of confidence that he's a trusted advisor who's doing his best for her.
Wow, that's amazing. And how
It
nice that
was
you were able to, jump in and help her and listen in, make sure she's in good hands.
it was absolutely perfect because I didn't know that this had been planned. And
Hmm.
then while she was here, it's like, oh, by the way, I've got this scheduled. And then she said, oh, by the way, I would really like it if you would just hear what goes on. So
That's so
it was
cool.
just a perfect example of a trusted advisor doing his
Yeah.
best work for his client.
Yeah. That's really cool. Nancy, are financial advisors only for rich people?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So is there
And
like a
you know,
cap? Is there like a net worth that you should have before you look for financial advice? No.
no, not at all. Because if you're young, who do I start with? Well, just about everybody has a bank that they
Mhm.
work with. And banks have a whole step ladder of advisors.
Mhm.
So if you're just starting, you talk to the teller. And it
Mhm.
isn't the teller that's going to get you started. She's going to refer you to somebody in that branch. Excuse me, if you're already working with someone, but you'd like a second opinion on what you've done so far, that would be another resource. But the important thing is that you lean in and you work with a professional to get you started or keep you going or give you a second opinion. I've done all sorts of different events with this one wealth advisor, a man, and it's difficult for him to go after female clients. So I said, look, just sponsor my events. And that gives people a chance to see who you are. Terrific guy. I said, I'm more than happy to be a champion for you. And all I did was say, smart women get a second opinion. So here he is. You've seen him. He'll answer any questions, but take your personal wealth plan to him for a second opinion. And more often than not, they became clients of us because, he was a very sophisticated advisor. There wasn't anything that he couldn't offer to anyone. And so meet with him, speak with him, get his input. I don't know what your plan is, but he will definitely do his best for you. I know that.
That's great. Nancy, do you think that women who are married need different type of advice from women who are single?
Well, I think what's really important is if you're married, that you continue to have the conversation that you had when you were first dating one another and decided to partner.
So
Because
with your husband.
with your husband,
Mhm.
because often that's when things go off the rails. And, this is another perfect example. We had next door neighbors in Toronto when we lived there, both professionals. They owned their home next to us, put a line of credit on it, which they agreed to. And I don't think that line of credit, if you were taking anything out, required both signatures. It was there. Well, Mr. helped himself, had a little affair, bought a property, and then said, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving you. I'm leaving you." She was totally devastated, totally devastated. He just took advantage of her. And who knows how it went off the rails. But at any given point in time, you've got to anticipate worst case scenarios. Had that line of credit been both signatures required, if anything is going to draw down, that would have headed that whole thing off. He probably, that doesn't mean that he still wasn't going to leave, but it would mean that she has protected her wealth because once that line of credit was taken, now she has reduced her net worth because of how he helped himself. So women really need to be smart and discerning at any given point in time. And it isn't just me protecting myself. By doing this, you're protecting yourself because she could have done the same thing.
Mhm.
She could have ended up with someone half her age and saying, okay, let's go into the sunset together. It just, trust is so, so, so fragile. You never want to mistrust somebody that you have had a long-term relationship with. But at the same time, every step of the way, you need to protect yourself and that other person needs to protect themselves. It's in both of your best interest to do so, so that there are no surprises and no regrets.
What are some other ways that women can protect themselves financially?
Well, educate themselves. Really, 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 truly important is to increase your understanding of how everything works. Because the same way I mentioned, every home has a nurse practitioner who is mom. Often it's Mr. who is doing the investing.
Mhm.
And you kind of, everybody's busy. You kind of compartmentalize things that way. Don't do that. Stay involved with the entire picture. Don't just do the house budget and that's
Mhm.
your financial involvement. Well, you know that, what you just said.
Mhm.
Everything that you're doing and everything that you're doing, you need to keep your husband abreast
Mhm.
so that if something happens to you, he's not going to be in the dark or not going to be vulnerable
Yeah.
to someone else taking advantage of him. I
If
keep saying
something
to him,
happened to me, nothing would ever get paid again. All the electricity would be turned off.
well, then he's vulnerable. I keep saying
Yeah.
that to my husband. If I die before you, these are the things that you need. Oh, you're not going to die before me. Like you're going to live. No, you got to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are at risk.
Yeah.
So it isn't just women being vulnerable. It's our partners
It's
are
our partners too.
vulnerable as well. And you have to make sure that you've got systems in place that if you die first, he's not going to be at risk.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like he doesn't even
Really.
check his email or anything. So I don't know
Well,
what would happen to the bills and everything. It would be a
that's why you have
disaster.
to put other people in place. And this is what I've done over the last couple of years is to make sure that if I do die first, there are people in place who will look after him, knowing that this isn't the kind of thing that he's been paying attention to.
Hmm.
And I know that I can trust those people.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah,
at
that's
least.
hard to find people like that. I mean, of course, we trust our son. That would be like the only person that I would allow access to our bank accounts and everything. But I never really thought about it that way. My husband's a little bit older than me, so we just assume that I'll be around longer.
Right,
I'm more
right, exactly.
concerned about having all his the things that he has access to make sure I can access that. But yeah, it can be a tricky situation for sure, and something to prepare
But
for.
but involve your son. Involve your son.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a terrific legacy for you to leave a son who understands all of this and
Yes.
is that respectful when he takes on a partner,
Hmm.
male or female.
Yeah.
And he may end up being the stronger one in that partnership, but always make sure you're paying attention to the other. I
Yeah.
was just on a tour today. I'm heavily involved with Rotary here, and we had a tour of a dairy farm. Oh my goodness, it was so impressive.
Wow.
They've got robotics, they've got all kinds of things, but they have
Wow.
two daughters. They've just upgraded a lot of what they're doing. And they have two daughters. One's in university, the other's still in high school. They're both totally dedicated to taking this business over. But you know what? As time unfolds, they may change their mind. So, in doing their upgrade on a scale of 1 to 10, they probably did a 7 rather than a 10,
Hmm.
because a 10 they could have done, which would mean it would be a much bigger operation. But if those girls decide that they don't want to farm after they've gone through all of their education, then they've got an out. They don't, whereas if they'd done a 10, then it's like, okay, well, we can't do this 10 unless we can count on you girls taking this operation over. I was so impressed. I said, that is such smart thinking. Such smart thinking. Really good.
Very
Because
clever.
often very clever. Often it's all in. And then, well, you girls said you were interested, and look at what your dad and I have done. And none of that really smart. So they've taken the pressure off themselves, taken the pressure off their girls. Everybody's still loving doing what they're doing,
Hmm.
but really, really, really smart thinking. So, so smart. So, I guess what I'm saying is just do some smart thinking and realize about vulnerabilities with the different choices that you make.
I love that. Makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
What do you think? Do you think we should be leaving stuff behind for our children, or should we just live our lives and spend all the money before we go?
No, I think it's a combination of both because you want to leave behind smart kids.
Hmm.
You don't want, I mean, it's like Warren Buffett. I think
Yeah.
he was the one that said that, you don't leave so much that they don't have to make a living.
Hmm.
Everybody needs to have the privilege or the opportunity of getting out there and earning their own money. But at the same time, if it comes into a legacy scenario, then that can really help, especially with the cost of housing.
Hmm.
That can really help. But kids just shouldn't line up waiting for parents to die so that they can access those dollars to do the things that will come their way more easily than they should have. And again, the more you can include your kids in those conversations about how you put together a wealth plan, the
Yeah.
better,
Yeah, absolutely.
including,
I've known kids like that, young people who were say, "Oh, I just wait for mom and dad to die and then that's it." I mean, how horrible when you're waiting for someone to die. And of course, with
exactly.
other relatives, rich relatives, aunties, whatever. I mean, so many people are waiting for an inheritance, which is just so disgusting in my opinion.
Right.
With my
But
parents,
that's
I
where,
hope they spend every dime. I don't want anything from them. I want them to live their lives and just spend away. That's the
mhm.
best way to do it for me. As I'm not expecting anything. Nancy, what do you think about cryptocurrency as an investment?
I'm not knowledgeable in the least. And
Hmm.
the only thing that I would say is just again, educate yourself. Make sure you understand what it's all about and how it works and how it can be beneficial, but also what are the risks? Always what are the risks?
Yeah.
So
But I
again,
guess
be just
diversifying your wealth is also very important to have a
oh,
little bit like
extremely.
in real estate, gold, stocks, things like that.
Ex-
You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Not at all. Not at all. It's in another story is I was lined up to go to an event at the Royal Alex in Toronto,
Hmm.
and there's a whole swarm of people. And all of a sudden, this woman goes, "Oh my goodness, there's Nancy." She said, "My partner and I talk about you all the time." And I think, "Oh my God, now what?" Anyway, she said, "We appreciate the advice you gave us so much because they got into rental housing. You know,
Mhm,
they bought three or four properties and they're loving it." And she said, "We never would have done that if you hadn't suggested it." So, to your point about diversification, it isn't all about the monies that that wealth advisor has control over.
mhm,
You know, a good wealth plan is to pay attention to what your clients are saying, what else they might be interested in, and then direct them, give them that direction so that they can pick up on it and invest if they want or not.
mhm.
Anyway, they were delighted. They just said we
Oh,
never would have done that. So
that's
it
wonderful.
was a positive story, which was like, okay, good, thank you.
Well done, Nancy. And
Exactly.
property is really, it's usually a safe bet. I mean, I lost a lot of money on property in Toronto, but that's a different story. But in general, it's as a long-term investment, especially if you can get a good rental property, that's
Ex-
a really good long-term investment.
Exactly. Exactly. Really, really good. And one of the podcasts that I was on, I was speaking with a woman who that was really what her focus was investment properties. And so then I was talking about a wealth plan and including insurance that covers the health scenario. Oh my goodness, she said, insurance. Nobody's talked to me about insurance. Like this is like, oh my God. I said, okay, all those properties that you own, do you have insurance on them?
Hmm.
Of course. I said, well, you are your life's greatest asset. So if you don't have insurance on yourself, you're missing that opportunity the same way you would if you didn't have insurance on those investment properties.
Hmm.
She said, well, then who would I talk to? Like, how would I get more information on this? And I said, well, I'm a certified financial planner, and I think it's a pretty much a global opportunities. So you just talk to people, like
Hmm.
start shopping and
Hmm.
start ed and you'll learn a tremendous amount and then you will decide what amount is appropriate. Hmm.
Nancy, as far as self-worth, like how does our self-worth tie into our wealth?
Well, once people understand this whole scenario and they consider themselves educated and aware, then they're happy that they've got a plan in place. It's like run me over. I've got a plan.
Hmm.
Don't, I've thought about all the different configurations, and that gives you a whole level of confidence. And a level of confidence definitely enhances your self-worth. It's like I've done the homework, I've figured this out, I've got people working with me. Um, I feel really, really, really good about what I've got in place, and that just enhances self-worth through a whole level of confidence.
So this self-worth is not actually tied to how much money you've got in the bank or
Not
how,
at all.
but
No, not at
it's
all.
actually tied to just being organized and having a plan and knowing that whatever happens, you're taken care of or your family's taken care of.
Right. Making the most of everything that you've got. Period.
Because I
Really.
guess even like a small wealth or a small portfolio or something can be managed in a certain way that would bring you growth in the future and more opportunities in the
Exactly.
future.
Yeah. You've stepped up to the situation, you've paid attention to it, you've worked it through with professionals so that really you've put the best in place that you possibly can do, and that you have regular reviews, like the example that I shared with you. Every 6 months, have a review with that professional. And
Hmm.
with Zoom, it's very easy to do. And again, like I said, that whole interaction that I sat in on was no more than a half an hour.
Hmm.
No more than a half an hour. And that person felt like $1 million. Like
Hmm.
she really was feeling fabulous. It wasn't as though she had any really big concerns going into the conversation, but she knows that the markets are up and down, and who knows what's ahead. And she doesn't want to be in the DR worrying about, oh my God, is my monthly at risk? Because that's now her income. That's her income. She's not working. She's retired. She's set aside all her savings. She's invested. And
Hmm.
that monthly is her lifeline. So no regrets.
Yeah, so you don't want to be risking that for sure.
No,
Yeah.
no, not
And
at
Nancy,
all.
what would you say to people who are control freaks and they would have a hard time taking advice from anyone when it comes to their financial situation.
Well, good for them, and just know that you could be at risk. And that goes back to your question about crypto.
Hmm.
Control freaks normally want to be involved with everything, like what's the latest trend, and they want to be there.
Yeah.
So, more power to you if that's your personality.
Hmm.
Then just make sure you're paying attention to the risks. Make sure you just know what the risks are so that you have no surprises and no regrets.
And also some people have been burned in the past by financial advisors, given the wrong
Right.
advice. They invested in something, ended up losing a lot of money, and then they just have a hard time trusting people. So I
Yep,
think that's why it's really important to find someone that you can, who comes with a proven background and a person that you can really trust.
exactly. And often, I did a lot of events, seminars, when I was a wealth advisor, and now those often happen online.
Hmm.
Well, participate because when it's online, it isn't just you one to one. There will be other guests there as well, and you'll start to get a feeling for, is this person a trusted advisor or not? Better to attend in person if you can, but
Hmm.
if not, you know, get in the middle of it, really. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And it's all about making sure that you're well informed and well educated so that you've got a good handle on what you're in the middle of and who's looking after what.
Nancy, where can people find more information about what you do? How can they get in contact with you if they wanted to learn more or work with you?
We're on all the social media, but the best thing to do is just send me an email so that make sure you go into our database. And then when we're pushing things out, you'll know what we're doing. And it's Nancy@womenworthwellness.com. Nancy@womenworthwellness.com. That's the simplest way.
Okay, I'll
And
make
then you're
sure to
in, and
link
then
everything below.
exactly. And then if they decide, you can always unsubscribe or or engage further.
And you're happy to work with people basically from around the world. You can do Zoom.
Happy, very happy,
Yeah, so it's
very
not just
happy.
not just in Canada, but basically from anywhere.
No, as a matter of fact, through this whole podcasting experience, it's very few in Canada. One of my new best friends is in South Africa. So it's literally all over the world, all
Hmm.
over the world. And, women have similar questions about trusted advisor, for example. How do I find one?
Hmm.
And so, without repeating myself, a trusted advisor is crucial, really, really important. Really important. And my underlying motivation is that once women really, really, really exercise the amount of power that they have with their wealth, it has them stepping up into new and fabulous roles. I was on a webinar last week with Forbes Women's Summit, and Melinda Frenchgate led off. But all day long, it was all sorts of different women. And it's all about stepping up and stepping out and really, really assuming a lot of responsibility with your power. It makes all the difference in the world. We
I love
mean,
that. Women stepping into their power. That's what this podcast and my page and
there
everything is
you,
all about. So I love
exactly.
that. I love that. This was such a great conversation and so eye-opening for me, and it's actually making me question a few things that we're doing wrong. So thank you very much. Hopefully other people will also relate to this and realize that they need to take some further steps to improve their situation and to ensure their future financial security as well.
I'll
Nancy,
just
Nancy, go ahead.
let me leave you with one thought,
Yeah,
which
of
was an
course,
aha
absolutely.
moment through that whole day. It was Demi Moore being
Uh-huh.
interviewed. And she said, life happens for you, not to you. Now, that is so profound
I love that.
because when things go wrong, we think, well, there you go. But when things go wrong, it has happened for you. So if you've been working with the wrong advisor and you've lost money, okay, that happened for you to now go find a better person to build a better future rather than feeling, oh my God, here we go again.
I love
So,
that. Makes so much
so
sense.
you're welcome. Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Lynn.
much, Nancy. It was wonderful to have you on. It was great to meet you. And thank
Likewise.
thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.